WWE found themselves in an interesting position in 1994 as they were facing their first full year without Hulk Hogan, the golden goose who had helped them achieve global success in the 1980s. They threw a lot of stuff at the wall in the hope of recreating some of that red and yellow magic, and whilst a lot of that stuff slid down and left a nasty stain, a few things did stick, mostly thanks to the stars of the new generation. 94 was something of a transitional year for WWE, but a group of hungry up-and-comers ensured there were plenty of good craps to counteract some of the crap. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 best WWE matches of 1994. Join us! Number 10, Alandra Blaze vs Bull Nakano at SummerSlam. When the Fed brought in Alandra Blaze, aka Medusa, in 1993, it was with the promise that she would be made the focal point of an exciting new women's division. Unfortunately, whilst the division certainly was new, I don't think anyone would go as far as to call it exciting. At SummerSlam, Blaze finally got a real opponent in the form of Japanese megastar Bull Nakano. The prize was Blaze's Women's Championship, and it turns out that when you put two women in the ring together who can actually wrestle, they put on a great match. Who'd have thunk it? The two performers were able to tell a simple yet highly effective story of the smaller Blaze having to overcome her larger, more powerful foe. Nakano's power moves rocked the champion, who was able to dig deep and use the spirit of America to keep getting back up, eventually slaying the foreign menace with a beautiful bridging German suplex. Not only was this the first proper women's match in SummerSlam history, but it would also remain the greatest women's match the show had ever seen for many, many years. Not that it faced much competition, mind you. Number 9, the 1-2-3 Kid vs Owen Hart on Raw. 1994 was the year Owen Hart and the 1-2-3 Kid put on a blistering sub-4 minute match at King of the Ring, one of the greatest short matches in WWE history. As much as we love a short king here at Cultaholic, we also like a bit of girth every now and again, which is why we've gone for this longer encounter between the two. The King of Hearts and the future X-Pac wasted no time in going for each other on the August 15th episode of Raw, as the Kid launched himself at Owen right at the start of their encounter. The youngest Hart brother was able to take control, focusing on Kid's arm, only for the pint-sized hero to sock it to him and his manager Jim Neidhart. What are you gonna do about that, Anvil? Run in and cause a DQ? Oh, that's exactly what he did. Never mind. Big Jim getting involved to break up a Boston Crab the Kid had on Owen was a bit of a flat finish, but this was still an excellent TV match full of technical grappling, high flying, and plenty of violence from the evil Canadian. Number 8, Shawn Michaels vs Razor Ramon on Raw. Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon would have a very good year working together in 1994, but there's more to their resume than the one match everybody knows about. The August 1st edition of the flagship show opened with a tantalizing match between the two real-life buddies. Considering the show was only an hour long back in those days, fans were lucky if they got to see a match go over 10 minutes. Not this though, this was given a full 23 minutes to play with. And people say the Clique had too much power backstage. Luckily, that time was very well spent, as HBK and the Bad Guy proved why they were two of the best WWE had to offer at the time. Razor was able to stand his ground and use his strength to swat Michaels out of the air like a particularly sexy fly, only for Shawn to fight dirty, using the ropes and his bodyguard Diesel to great effect. The big man on the outside would prove to be the deciding factor, as a Diesel distraction allowed Michaels to roll Ramon up and win what was essentially a pay-per-view quality match given away for free. Number 7, Diesel vs Razor Ramon at SummerSlam. That Shawn Razor match we just talked about was actually to set up another clash between the Bad Guy and a different member of his backstage gang, Big Daddy Cool Diesel. The Outsiders met at SummerSlam 1994 in Chicago with Big Sexy's Intercontinental Championship on the line. Whilst Diesel had HBK as his backup, Razor got himself a bear in his corner. Wait, sorry, he got Chicago Bears football player Walter Payton. Easy mistake to make. Nash and Hall worked wonders together, centering the action around an exposed turnbuckle that Razor was eventually able to use to his advantage. An errant superkick from Michaels on his own man allowed Chico to get the win, as Peyton pulled the showstopper out of the ring to a huge pop. This would have been a brilliant match anyway, but the addition of Michaels on the outside, plus the presence of one of the greatest football players of all time, or so Wikipedia tells me, elevated the sports entertainment factor to a whole new level. A truly underrated gem between the two IRL besties. Number 6, Bret Hart vs Diesel at King of the Ring. Whilst his brother Owen was winning the namesake tournament, Bret Hart faced a very different challenge at King of the Ring 1994, the Intercontinental Champion Diesel. This was a champion versus champion match, but only Bret's World Championship was on the line, which seems a little unfair, but that's what you get for not cozying up to Vince McMahon backstage. These two would put on some classics in '95, and this was, in many ways, a precursor of what was to come. Diesel's huge size advantage gave him an early lead, but the Hitman was able to use his considerable skill set to reverse the tide, fighting back with reversals and submissions aplenty. At nearly 23 minutes, this was one of the longest pay-per-view matches of the whole year, which granted both men the opportunity to tell a captivating story. The only knock against this match is that it didn't have a conclusive ending, as Jim Neidhart caused a DQ to prevent Diesel from pinning his brother-in-law. What was it with the anvil and non-finishes in 1994? The guy had a real problem, you know? Number 5, Bret Hart versus the 1-2-3 Kid on Raw. Just over a year after he scored his famous victory over Razor Ramon, the 1-2-3 Kid put on another classic Raw match, this time against somebody who he wasn't best buds with behind the scenes. Little Sean Waltman took on Bret Hart for the Hitman's World Championship on the July 11th, 1994 episode of the show. Whilst everyone knew these two were good, nobody was expecting them to pull out one of the greatest matches in the show's history up to that point. Kid and Hart found a great balance between the challenger being the underdog and the champion being a respectful babyface, as the smaller competitor pushed his opponent to his limit time and time again. It actually looked like he was going to win the gold at several points, which would have made absolutely zero business sense, but would have caused scenes, absolute scenes nonetheless. Alas, Bret was able to dodge a flying attack and cinch in a sharpshooter to retain the championship, as the crowd and announcers gave them both a well-deserved standing ovation. You would think that a match of this magnitude would have closed the show, right? No, that honour went to Erwin R. Shyster taking on somebody called Ray Hudson. What were they thinking? Number 4, Shawn Michaels and Diesel versus Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid on Action Zone. I bet you £1,000,000 that you've never even heard of Action Zone before this, let alone seen any matches from it. The program lasted less than 2 years and ended up being a highlight show toward the end, which makes it even crazier that it played host to the best WWE tag team match of 1994. Shawn Michaels and Diesel were on one side of this encounter from the second episode, with Razor Ramon and his protege the 1-2-3 Kid on the other. As you might expect from an all-click affair, these four went at it like it was their last ever match, resulting in some truly terrific stuff. Everybody just worked so well with everybody else, as the two high flyers were able to make magic with each other, only for the bruisers to come in and smack them to Kingdom Come. A sneaky big boot from Diesel to the Kid allowed Michaels to win the match and retain his and his partner's tag team titles, but the insane crowd reaction this match got from start to finish should tell you everything you need to know about a bout that you may have to look for to find, but is well worth seeking out. Number 3, Bret Hart versus Owen Hart at SummerSlam. Bret Hart and his estranged brother Owen had the hands-down best rivalry of 1994, helped in part by matches like this one from SummerSlam. The Hitman was the world champion, whilst his little brother had won King of the Ring. All the family drama that had been brewing since the Royal Rumble, where Owen famously kicked Bret's leg out of his leg, would finally come to a head inside a solid steel cage, no less. With neither man that keen on fighting their own flesh and blood, both kept desperately trying to escape the cage, which fueled the drama in between some electric wrestling on the mat. After coming close on a number of occasions, Bret was able to leapfrog Owen by leaping off the cage wall to the floor, keeping the belt by the skin of his teeth. The Hart Boys could have had a classic match in a soft play area, but the tension, the selling, and the stakes made this one even better. It even got the full 5 stars from Dave Meltzer, only the second match in Federation history to do so. What was the first, I hear you ask? Well, none other than number 2, Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon at WrestleMania 10. There had been ladder matches in WWE before, but the first one to take place in front of a television audience went down at WrestleMania 10 and was between the Intercontinental Champion and the Intercontinental Champion. Razor Ramon had won the workhorse belt after Shawn Michaels failed to defend it within 30 days, only for HBK to return with his own version of the title, which he never technically lost. This led to both belts being hung above the ring, with the winner becoming undisputed IC champion, now and forevermore. Even after 3 decades and so many other ladder matches, this one is still regarded as a standard bearer for the stipulation. Michaels and Ramon worked their asses off to get this new match type over, taking some insane bumps for the time, including HBK leaping off the ladder with an iconic splash. After Michaels got himself tangled up in the ropes, Razor scaled the buckled and bent ladder, pulled down the gold, and crowned himself the undisputed IC champ after one of the most incredible spectacles in WWE history. And yet, somehow, it still wasn't the best match to take place that night. Number 1, Owen Hart vs Bret Hart at WrestleMania 10. As the old saying goes, nobody fights like family, especially when that family is presided over by a crazy old man with a dungeon in his basement. After months of squabbling between the two, Bret and Owen squared off one-on-one for the first time ever in the opening match of WrestleMania 10. Not only did Bret have to deal with the fact that his own sibling had turned against him, but he also needed to prepare for his World Championship match later in the night. Safe to say he had a lot on his plate, that lad. The only way to fully understand just how bloody good this match is to watch it for yourself, as there's no way a jackass like me describing it will do it justice. Smooth as butter and stuffed to the gills with that sweet wrestling drama, Owen vs Bret is a masterpiece in every aspect of the wrestling game. To cap it all off, the younger Hart stole a win off his big brother, which nobody saw coming and cast serious doubt over whether the Hitman could reclaim the title later on. Still one of the very best matches to grace a WWE ring, there is no way this wasn't gonna be number 1. Sorry, Shawn. Sorry, Scott.